Halloween, a holiday celebrated with trick-or-treating, costumes, and scary decorations, with a rich history that dates back thousands of years. Its origins can be traced to the ancient Celtic festival of Hine, which marked the end of the harvest season and the onset of winter. This time of year was believed to be a bordering period when the connection between the living and the dead was blurred, allowing spirits to roam the earth. The Celts would light bonfires and wear costumes to ward off these wandering spirits, looking forward to harming them and setting the stage for many of the traditions we associate with Halloween today. As time passed, the influence of Christianity began to shape the celebration, leading to the establishment of All Hallows' Eve on the night before All Saints' Day. This transition resulted in a blending of pagan customs with Christian beliefs, further evolving the holiday's significance. Over time, Halloween transformed from a solemn occasion honouring the dead into a more festive celebration, especially in the United States during the 19th century, when Irish immigrants brought their traditions to America. This tradition began to take on a more playful tone, with community events and parties becoming popular. By the early 20th century, Halloween had evolved into a family-friendly celebration, complete with parades, games, and the beloved tradition of trick-or-treating. This shift in focus from the supernatural to the social aspects of Halloween reflects broader cultural changes, as communities sought to create a sense of togetherness and fun. Today, Halloween is a multi-billion-dollar industry, with people of all ages participating in festivities that range from haunted houses to elaborate costume parties. The ancient roots of Halloween can be traced back to the Celtic festival of Samhain, a significant celebration that marked the end of the harvest season and the onset of winter. For the Celts, who inhabited regions that are now part of Ireland, Scotland and Wales, Samhain was not just a seasonal transition, it was a time of profound spiritual significance. This festival, celebrated from October 31st to November 1st, was believed to be a period when the veil between the living and the dead was at its thinnest, allowing for a unique connection between the two realms. The Celts viewed this time as an opportunity to honour their ancestors and the spirits of those who had passed away, reflecting their deep respect for the cycle of life and death. The boundary between the living and the dead was perceived as fluid during Samhain, with the belief that the spirits of the deceased could return to the earth. This notion instilled both reverence and fear among the living as they sought to understand the presence of these wandering souls. The Celts believed that during this liminal time, the spirits could bring messages, guidance, or even mischief, which made it essential for the living to take precautions to protect themselves from any potential harm. To appease these spirits and ensure a harmonious relationship, the Celts engaged in various rituals and offerings. One of the most notable practices involved lighting bonfires, which served as a beacon to guide the spirits back to their resting places. These fires were also thought to possess protective qualities, warding off malevolent entities that might seek to cause trouble. Communities would gather around these bonfires, sharing stories and celebrating the lives of those who had passed, reinforcing social bonds and collective memory. In addition to bonfires, offerings of food and drink would be left outside their homes, believing that these gifts would appease the spirits and prevent them from causing mischief as a gesture of goodwill. This practice not only honoured the deceased, but also reinforced the connection between the material and the spiritual world. Another significant aspect of Samhain was the practice of disguising oneself in costumes, often made from animal skins or masks. This tradition served multiple purposes, allowing individuals to blend in with the spirits and protecting them from potential harm. By donning disguises, the living could engage with the spirit world in a way that was both respectful and entertaining, reflecting the dual nature of Samhain as a time of reverence and revelry. As the centuries progressed, the significance of Samhain began to intertwine with Christian and Roman traditions, eventually evolving into what we now recognise as Halloween. However, the core elements of honouring the dead acknowledging the thin boundary between life and death and engaging in rituals to appease spirits, remained deeply rooted in the ancient Celtic practices. The practice of carving turnips, which originated in Celtic traditions, was influenced by the Roman custom of using fruits and vegetables for decoration. This eventually evolved into the modern tradition of carving pumpkins, a practice that has become synonymous with Halloween today. Additionally, the Romans brought with them the idea of masquerades and costumes, which added a playful element to the festivities. The Celts had already engaged in disguising themselves to ward off spirits. The blending of these customs created a rich tapestry of practices that reflected the diverse cultural influences at play during the evolution of Halloween. The transformation of Samhain into Christian observances is a fascinating journey that reflects the complex interplay between pagan traditions and emerging Christian beliefs. As Christianity spread throughout Europe, particularly during the early Middle Ages, the Catholic Church sought to integrate and redirect existing pagan practices to facilitate the conversion of local populations. One of the most significant developments in this transformation was the establishment of All Saints' Day, celebrated on November 1st. This feast day was intended to honour all saints, both known and unknown, and served as a way to commemorate the lives of those who had achieved sainthood. The Catholic Church recognised the importance of the timing of this observance, as it coincided with the ancient Celtic festival of Samhain, which had long been associated with honouring the dead. By placing All Saints' Day on the same date, the Catholic Church aimed to provide a Christian framework for the existing customs, allowing converts to maintain their traditions while aligning them with Christian teachings. Following closely on the heels of All Saints' Day, November 2nd was designated as All Souls' Day, a day specifically set aside to remember and pray for the souls of the deceased. This observance further reinforced the Catholic Church's intention to redirect the focus of Samhain from a pagan celebration of the dead to a Christian practice centred on prayer and remembrance. All Souls' Day provided a structured way for the faithful to honour their loved ones who had passed away, emphasising the importance of intercessory prayer and the belief in the communion of saints. The Catholic Church's efforts to redirect pagan practices were not merely about eradicating old customs. Rather, they sought to create a new narrative that would resonate with the local populace. By incorporating elements of Samhain into Christian observances, the Catholic Church aimed to ease the transition for converts, allowing them to retain a sense of cultural identity while embracing their new faith. This approach was strategic, as it acknowledged the deep-rooted significance of the harvest season and the honouring of the dead, which were integral to the Celtic way of life. However, despite the Catholic Church's attempts to reshape these practices, many old beliefs persisted beneath the surface of the new Christian customs. The blending of traditions often resulted in rich variations of practices reflecting pagan and Christian influences. For instance, the lighting of candles and lanterns during All Saints and All Souls Days can be traced back to the ancient Celtic practice of lighting bonfires to guide spirits. Similarly, the custom of visiting graves and leaving offerings for the deceased during these observances echoes the earlier pagan rituals of honouring ancestors. The persistence of these old beliefs highlights the resilience of cultural traditions as communities sought to maintain connections to their past, even as they adopted new religious practices. Additionally, the concept of the thin veil between the living and the dead, which was central to Samhain, continued to resonate within the Christian framework. The belief that the souls of the departed could intercede on behalf of the living remained a powerful aspect of Christian theology, reinforcing the connection between the two realms. As a result, the transformation of Samhain into Christian observances was not a straightforward replacement, but rather a complex process of adaptation and integration. This blending of traditions ultimately laid the groundwork for the modern celebration of Halloween, which retains echoes of its ancient origins while embracing new customs and beliefs. During the medieval period, Halloween customs evolved significantly, reflecting a blend of ancient traditions and emerging cultural practices. One of the notable customs that emerged during this time was the practice of souling, which involved the act of going door to door to offer prayers for the souls of the deceased in exchange for food or other offerings. This practice was particularly prevalent in England and parts of Ireland, where groups of people, often children, would visit homes on All Hallows Eve, asking for soul cakes. These small round cakes were baked specifically for the occasion and were meant to symbolise the souls being prayed for. The act of souling not only provided a means of sustenance for the participants, but also reinforced the communal aspect of honouring the dead, as families would come together to remember their loved ones. Souling was closely related to the earlier Celtic traditions of honouring the deceased during Samhain, showcasing the continuity of customs even as they adapted to new religious contexts. Another significant custom that emerged during the medieval period was guising, which involved dressing up in costumes and disguises. This practice allowed individuals to take on different identities, often as a way to blend in with the spirits that were believed to roam the earth on Halloween night. Guising was not merely for entertainment, it also served a protective purpose, as people believed that by disguising themselves, they could avoid being recognised by malevolent spirits. This custom reflected the medieval fascination with the supernatural, as well as the ongoing belief in the thin boundary between the living and the dead. The act of dressing up and performing in front of others also fostered a sense of community and celebration as people gathered to share in the festivities. The role of witches and ghosts in medieval folklore further enriched the Halloween customs of the time. Witches, often depicted as malevolent figures with the power to cast spells and curses, became central to the folklore surrounding Halloween. The medieval period was marked by a growing fear of witchcraft, fueled by societal anxieties and the Catholic Church's condemnation of pagan practices. This fear manifested in various ways, including witch hunts and trials, which sought to root out those believed to be practicing sorcery. Witches were often associated with the supernatural elements of Halloween, and their presence in folklore contributed to the eerie atmosphere of the season. Ghosts, too, played a significant role in medieval Halloween customs. Stories of restless spirits and hauntings were common, as people believed that the souls of the deceased could return to the living world during this time. These beliefs were often intertwined with the practice of souling, as individuals sought to appease the spirits of their ancestors through prayers and offerings. The blending of sacred and profane elements in Halloween celebrations during the medieval period is particularly noteworthy. While the Catholic Church sought to redirect pagan practices into Christian ones, many of the old customs persisted, creating a unique fusion of beliefs. The sacred aspect of honouring the dead through prayer and remembrance coexisted with the more playful and mischievous elements of guising and revelry. This duality reflected the complexities of medieval society, where the boundaries between the sacred and the secular were often blurred. Celebrations would include both solemn rituals to honour the deceased and festive gatherings filled with music, dancing and feasting. This blending of elements allowed communities to engage with their spiritual beliefs while also embracing the joy and camaraderie of the season. As Halloween began to take root in American society, it transformed into a community celebration that transcended its original solemn undertones. By the late 19th and early 20th centuries, Halloween had evolved from a primarily family-oriented observance into a more public and communal event. Towns and cities began organising parades, parties and community gatherings, fostering a spirit of togetherness and camaraderie. This shift was partly driven by a desire to create a sense of belonging among immigrant populations who often faced discrimination and isolation in their new homeland. Halloween provided an opportunity for these communities to come together, celebrate their heritage, and engage with their neighbours in a festive atmosphere. By the mid-20th century, Halloween had firmly established itself as a major cultural event in America, characterised by costumes, parties, and of course trick-or-treating. The commercialisation of Halloween further propelled its evolution, with the emergence of Halloween-themed merchandise, decorations, and candy. This transformation not only solidified Halloween's place in American culture, but also contributed to its status as a multi-billion-dollar industry. The playful mischief that had become synonymous with Halloween continued to thrive as families and communities embraced the holiday as a time for creativity, fun, and connection. The role of candy companies in shaping Halloween cannot be overstated. As trick-or-treating became more popular, candy manufacturers recognized the profit potential and began to market their products specifically for the holiday. By the mid-20th century, companies like Hershey, Mars, and Nestle started producing Halloween-themed candies and packaging. Hollywood and television have played pivotal roles in shaping the modern identity of Halloween, transforming it from a traditional celebration into a cultural phenomenon that captivates audiences worldwide. One of the most significant influences has been the impact of horror films, which have become synonymous with the Halloween season. The genre has produced iconic films that not only entertain but also define the themes and aesthetics of Halloween. Classics like Halloween, 1978, Psycho, 1960, and The Exorcist, 1973, have established a framework for what many consider the quintessential Halloween experience. As we reflect on the evolution of Halloween, it becomes clear that this beloved holiday has undergone a remarkable transformation from its ancient roots to perhaps a purely commercial celebration. But what is really Halloween at the end? Religion, politics, and the economy have through centuries taken their slice of the pie to profit from it however they can. And one wonders, is it still a ceremony to honour ancestors and commemorate the end of the harvest season, or is it just a glorified demon-worshipping holiday that makes people spend money on things that don't have any solemn significance? What are your thoughts on this? Let us know in the comments section.